Welcome back to the Souls and Stardust podcast. I'm Meo, and today we, of course, have Shannon, but also a very special guest, Stephanie. Um, what is your Instagram handle?
It's HD_ with Stephanie.
Okay,
And
so
it's
with
Stephanie
that,
with a PH, not an F.
Stephanie with the PH, not an S.
Huh?
And today we have her on. We're going to be talking about human design, and I'm super excited because it's something that we've talked about on the show before, but briefly, or about our own charts, or just like with minimal kind of knowledge. Um, Stephanie is my go-to. So the same way people come to me for like, hey, what's going on in the stars today? I will be like, hey, what's it mean when blah 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 blah, or what, because human design is it's such another language, but it's a really cool like modality or way to understand yourself and the lives of those around you. So we are very excited to have Stephanie on today. And then we want to know if and I'm just going to put it out here now in case people don't make it to the end, that we want to do human design mini readings the same way that we do our mini tarot readings every month on YouTube. We were thinking of having Stephanie come on and do like mini human design chart analysis or whatever. um, so let us know if that's something you guys are interested in. Sign up for our newsletter on our website, soulsandstardustpodcast.com. And that way you could get first dibs on discounts, early bird registration stuff, and all that kind of good stuff. Um, so, all right. Welcome.
Thank you.
I know, I am super excited. So Stephanie and I know each other through the photography world first. So we were both wedding photographers together, and we've shot a few times, and we've got to be a part of some really beautiful moments where we've both sat here and just like cried behind our cameras together during
Yeah.
ceremonies. And so it's like um, getting to know you and your family and like your boys and all that. So just really excited to have you here. So welcome.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here. And yeah, Meo and I have shot some weddings together. She was with me for my sister-in-law's wedding. We shot that one together. My sister-in-law, who we thought would never get married, found love, and it's like the most beautiful, sweet love, and just the two of them. And Mio was there to help me with her wedding, so she got to meet all the family and friends and everyone. But
Yay.
yeah, yeah.
So how did you transition or get into digging down that like human design rabbit hole? Like what drew you?
So this was like 2018. I was sort of already on this path of like, I want to delve a little bit more into like my own self-development and like spiritual development. I had just started getting into Reiki and doing Reiki sessions, and I had someone um, send me an Instagram post that was someone else had written like, "Hey, I just discovered this thing about human design, and I found out I'm a manifester, and my mind is blown. My whole world makes sense now." So I was like,
Mhm.
"What is this? I've never even heard of human design." And I like get very into like reading about esoteric things and religions and
Mhm.
past lives, and I had never heard of it. So I went and Googled human design manifester because that's what she had said. And I saw that that was like one of 5 types, and there's all these other different like aspects to it. So I ran my chart, and then like this was maybe like 9 or 10 o'clock at night. I spent hours that night just reading
Oh my
everything about the
gosh.
human design. I looked up my chart right away, my husband's, my kids. Like when I was reading it, reading about myself, I started crying because there
Oh.
were so many things that came up that I was like, this explains so many aspects about myself
Mhm.
that I've known to be true, but kind of suppressed because they didn't fit in with
Mhm.
other people's expectations or what other people say you're supposed to do or be. And to
Mhm.
see it like in black and white, like, no, you were actually designed to be this way. And
Mhm.
you're right in feeling that you're a little bit different than everyone else. It just felt like it was the first time I felt like someone sees me on a deeper
Yeah.
level than what everyone else does. And it's a website that's seeing me
Mhm.
in this way, you know? So that kind of got me hooked. And then from there, my type in human design, I'm a mental projector. We
Okay.
love learning, love knowledge. We have a defined mind, which means there's when you have a defined center in human design, it means you have consistent access to the energy of that center. And when you
Mhm.
have a defined mind, your mind needs stimulation. It like thrives on having things to process and work through. And human design like completely satisfied that. I got real deep into it, and I've kind of been into it ever since, basically 7 years now. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah.
Um, and so how do you apply human design like in your daily life? Like what does that look like for you? Because I know for me, I'm like, okay, where's the moon today?
Yeah. Yeah.
Why is everybody acting like this? Where's Mars? Like,
Yeah. Totally. I know. I sometimes message you like, what is in retrograde right now? Because all this shit is going down.
Can we, like, before you get into how you apply it, can we, for the people who are listening to us who don't know what human design is or very peripherally, can you
Sure.
describe for our listeners, like, what is human design? Like, I know
Yeah.
it's a compilation of several different modalities that have come together for creating a story or insight, but we have a lot of people who are just very unfamiliar with that.
Sure. So it's a system that combines Eastern and Western astrology, um, the Chinese I Ching, the Judaic Kabbalah system, and the Hindu chakra system, all kind of combined into one. Like each of those
Mhm.
systems, as you guys know, being Reiki masters and astrology practitioners, those systems have a lot of insight and can tell us a lot about ourselves. When you
Mhm.
Mhm.
put all of them in together, you get this very layered, very deep, comprehensive picture of what is essentially your energetic gifts and your energetic
Mhm.
challenges, and kind of
Yeah,
like what you were here to bring into the world and places where you're meant to be taking in and to be influenced and changed in some ways as well. For me, human design, it can help you get to the root of some pain points in your life and clarify a lot of things. And it can also help you cultivate a deeper meaning in your life as well. I see it for me that the body chart, which is what we call when you pull your chart, so to speak, it gives you this body graph, and it's like a breakdown. It's like a human body sitting in a meditation pose, and then there's these triangles and squares all together. To me, that body graph is a permission slip for self-acceptance and
Ah,
acceptance of others. Like once you see like this is the energy that I was gifted by whatever higher power you believe in, God, universe, whatever
Mhm.
it may be, this is what you were given at birth. How can you deny that or fight against it
Right.
or reject it? You have no choice
Work
but
with
to
it.
accept it
Yeah.
and to work with it. And once you realize that, then you start to see other people the same way. Like, this is how they were built and designed. Who am I to say they're wrong? Who am I to try to change them? I have to just accept them as they are. And it gives you this like deep level of awareness. It's like your permission to let go of conditioning from society and from what other people have told you to be and to lean into who you were designed to be.
Your custom tailored
Yeah,
blueprint.
exactly.
I love that.
I read recently that there's over 2 billion possible combinations within human design because
wow.
it's so layered and so detailed. And when you kind of extrapolate that number and you think there's like just under 8 billion people on the planet,
Right.
that means the odds of someone else having your exact design, there's maybe only 3 other people in the
Wow.
entire world that would have the exact same design that you do. So it shows you like how unique you truly are, but
Yeah.
also how connected we are at the same time, you know?
I
That's
love that.
that's wild to think about.
Yeah, yeah.
Wow. Okay, cool. So then back to Mio's a question of how is it that you've been able to apply it in your life?
So for me, it comes in most valuable in my relationships,
Mm,
especially with in parenting with my kids, being able to see like there's so many places as a parent where we want to step in
Hmm.
and tell our kids, no, you have to do things this way. You have to be this way. You have to eat these certain things. You have to behave this certain way. And it's so much conditioning from what we've been told. We then like pass that on to our children, and being able to look at their chart and see like, oh, they were designed to eat this particular way. They're designed to have energy in this particular way, to rest in this particular way. It makes it it's a lot more empowering as a parent to be able to say, I don't care what those other people say you're supposed to do. I see you for you. I accept you how you are, and I'm going to let you fully lean into your design and help
Mhm.
guide you to be the best that you can be as you are
Instead of
designed.
fighting it and forcing it to
Yeah,
be a cookie
yeah,
cutter.
exactly.
This is how
Okay.
it's done.
And same in relationships. I'm a lot more accepting of my husband because there are a lot of places where we have conflicting, like polar opposites in our charts. And that would be sources of conflict for us in the past, like vacations and things would be like sources of tension. And once I saw the breakdown of our two charts and saw like, oh, this is why you're that way and this is why it annoys me so much. I understand now. Like it's not for me to change you, it's for me to accept you and to work with that and figure out how we can like bring out the best in each other, knowing that these are the challenges we now have. It like
I love
it
that.
released a lot of my annoyance with him in some ways when I could
Wow.
see like, oh, this is how like you're made this way and I'm made this way, and we actually can complement each other. We don't have to be like in this tension, we can be working together.
And is he on board with this? Like, do you tell him this is what I found out about you, or do you like is
No,
that
I've told him a lot. He's funny because it totally fits within his design. He's not as into the more like esoteric kind of things. He's not into these modalities as much. He's very logical, very practical, very like focused on, he's a lawyer, runs a law firm. He's very like evidence-based, numbers-based. But I have given him some insights into it. And he has been like, oh, that's interesting. I hadn't really thought about that before, but it's definitely true for me. I've gone so far as to like get him his own chart reading from
Okay.
other analysts that I respect, and I've given it to him and just said like, when you're ready, read it because I think it's interesting. And then
cool?
he'll come back
I
and it's
think
like,
when you're
okay,
ready is
yeah.
probably part of his design too.
Yes, exactly. When you're
Like
ready, when you
he's
feel like a response that you want to take a look at this, go for it and read it, and then let's talk about it. But yeah, it's
When is your husband's birthday?
his birthday is June 24th.
Oh,
he's a
okay.
Cancer.
Yeah.
Yeah, he is, and I'm a
But
Capricorn.
he's so here's the funny, if I can share the part of law that he does that's Cancer related, because Cancer
Sure.
rules the home
Hmm.
and the families, and he's like a tenant law, like
Oh,
Yeah, he has
so it's like
he
it
has a
ties in.
yeah, it's a social justice law firm focused on tenants' rights and protecting tenants.
So
uh,
how Cancerian and like, but in such a protective way, right?
Yeah, yeah, and it fits in his human design too. He has a lot of um, what are called gates in human design and
Okay.
channels that are focused on the tribe and the community and assuring that the tribe has the resources that it needs and the community has what it needs to thrive and be successful.
that's
It
cool.
totally
Cool.
fits in. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I like looking into the gates. They're very because like if you ever, so anyone listening, if you ever look up your chart and you see all the numbers and the channels and gates and stuff, like they all mean different things and how they
Right.
connect and how they connect to other people, and how like the energy exchange, is that a fair thing to say? Like
Yeah.
how
Yeah.
it moves
So
between the two of you?
exactly. Yeah. So within the chart, there are 9 centers. And you can have the centers either defined or undefined.
Yeah.
So the way you know is on your chart, if it's colored in, then it's a defined center, which means you have consistent access to the energy of that center. If it's an open center or a white center, meaning it's not colored in, then it's considered undefined, or we also could call it open. So you do not have consistent access to the energy of that center. Your energy in that center is kind of in flux depending on the people that you're around and what the transits are. And then within the chart, you'll notice there's all these like little lines and things that move around and connect the centers to each other. Those are the different gates and channels. There's 64 gates that correspond to the 64, um, I forget what they're called in the I Ching, but it's the 64 components of the I Ching. From those gates, some of us have what's called hanging gates, where you may have the center undefined, but one of the little gates is colored in. Those are like little antenna seeking out the energy of the connecting gate to connect the system and complete that channel. So you will find that you're often drawn to people that have the opposite energy that connect you and make a more complete channel within there. And find
Interesting.
centers. Yeah,
Oh,
it's
I
really
can't wait to
interesting
look
to
at my
do
chart closer
to
again.
do yeah, it's interesting to look at your chart and then pair it with your family members or partners or kids and see where you kind of connect. And Like the biggest thing about human design, like the whole purpose is to bring you into an awareness within your body so you can feel what it feels like when you're in alignment with your own energy and when you're out of alignment. And when you're making decisions that are in alignment with your energy or when they're out of alignment. And to
Yeah.
me, once
Yeah.
you get into it a little bit and you have that bodily awareness, it's really interesting to see how it feels, like actually physically feels, to be around different people and feel like what parts of you get lit up and what sort of is like activated within you when you're around them.
That's
That's
so, it's so cool. I mean, and so layered, right?
Very, yeah. It can get really complicated and really like overwhelming. So
Yeah.
for human design, like just getting into it, my biggest advice would be just stick to the centers at the beginning. Focus
okay.
on the 9 centers, learn your strategy and your authority because those are determined by your centers, by what's defined, and just focus in that area. You could only live in the area of the 9 centers and never explore anything else in human design and still have a life-changing experience with it.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
So maybe again, for the sake of the people listening who aren't familiar with human design, what are the 5 different types?
Thank you, first of all, for bringing me back to the basics because I get so deep into it. I feel like, oh, let's talk about your specific environment and are you going to be
Yeah.
observed? And so
Yeah.
getting back into the basics, I forget about that sometimes. So within human design, there are types. There's like 4 auras, and one of the auras has 2 types within it. So you have when there's a defined sacral, which is roughly 70% of the population will have a defined sacral. Those types are either generators or manifesting generators. Manifesting generators, some people say it's a subtype of a generator. I think of it as its own type, even though the aura is similar, the way the aura operates is similar.
Which
So
is what her and I both are, right?
yes, both of you are manifesting generators. I believe I have both of your charts pulled up. Shannon, I think you are too. Yeah, you're both manifesting generators.
Both
So
my
you
kids
both
are.
so you both have a defined sacral.
I have,
And
wow.
yours are as well?
Yeah, my spleen is defined as well.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, you have a lot of I'm looking at your chart right now. You have a lot of motors defined, but the sacral would be your decision-making authority center.
Mhm.
So when you feel something, when an opportunity comes to you, whether it's like a relationship, a business opportunity, a personal thing, like a new hobby, whatever it is that life presents to you, you have an immediate response within your sacral of yes or no.
Yep.
Mhm.
You'll know if it's for you. Your
Mhm.
mind might try to get in the way and talk you into something or out of something, but your body knows right away. So
Mhm.
for sacrally defined, Mio, you're a little bit different because I believe you're an emotional. Yes. So you have a defined emotional center, which makes your decision, you still have that immediate response, but you also need to allow yourself to ride out the emotional wave before making a solid decision. Those are the sacral types at 70%, generator and manifesting generator. Then there's also projectors, manifestors, and reflectors. Reflectors are the rarest of the 5 types. They're about 1%. Reflectors have nothing defined in their center. They're completely undefined. All of their centers are white. Their aura operates a little bit differently than the others and gives them like a little bit of a layer of protection because when you have undefined centers, those are areas where you're taking in energy from other people
Mhm.
and amplifying it before releasing it. And you're also taking in the energy of the transits. Reflectors are specifically designed to take in through all the centers. They have the longest decision making process. They, in theory, they're meant to wait a full lunar cycle, like a full 28 days before making any big
Wow.
decisions, because the moon during that time, during a lunar cycle, the moon moves through all 64 gates of the body graph.
That
So
makes
the
sense.
reflector has the opportunity to feel everything within the body graph before coming to a final decision. And they sort of, as the name implies, they're like the mirrors within the community that can like hold up and reflect back to if things are going well, if things need changing, if the community overall is successful, if the community needs to, change course to be more in an alignment. That is sort of their role in the big picture.
I wonder who like famous reflectors are right now, like looking at what their lives are
Yeah,
like.
like how would we know that we're amongst the reflector?
It's hard to know because there's such a small segment of the population. The only one that I know of off the top of my head is Sandra Bullock. She's a reflector.
I
Not who I was
Yeah.
expecting.
I know you wouldn't necessarily, but yeah, it's interesting. Their reflectors operate like in a different way than the other types, and they're a very unique kind of type. I have a lot of respect for reflectors because their whole experience is completely different than what the rest of us
I
experience.
wonder what they feel like in the presence of like us. Like what
Yeah.
I like, do I overwhelm somebody's like reflector system because of my manifesting generator fire?
So when I mentioned their auras operate a little bit differently, they have like a Teflon like quality to protect them so that they're not fully completely immersed in the
Overwhelmed.
energy of other people all the time. They have like a
Okay.
little bit of a layer of built-in protection where in theory, like a healthy reflector that is fully like within their awareness, they can be able to step aside and say, I know it's mine and I know what I'm getting from others
Okay.
to reflect back. The other two
Interesting.
types, manifestors and projectors. Manifestors make up about 8 to 9% of the population. They are the like initiators, the doers. They don't have to wait for other people to tell them what to do. Their whole strategy is to inform. They don't ask for permission. They don't wait for opportunities to come to them. They can just do. If you think about it like from an archetype perspective, kings and queens are the ultimate manifestors. They make their decision and everyone else has to respond and get in line with what
Mm.
they're doing. And they're not asking permission. They're telling you, this is what I'm doing. My youngest son is a manifester. He talks nonstop, constantly informs me about his day, tells me what he's doing. Mio knows because I've sent her voice notes and he's like chatting in the background like nonstop. But
I love him. He's my little friend.
I have to constantly tell him, when he's doing something, like I come downstairs and he's sticking a metal bowl in the microwave making popcorn, I have to tell him, like, you need to tell me. I know you don't want to ask for permission, but you need to at least tell me because I may be able to help you with some of these things. So, parents that have a manifestor child,
Mhm.
it's going to be really hard for that child to ever ask you permission for anything. They're going to be the type that's just going to tell you, this is what I'm doing. So,
Wow.
like, a way to approach that to avoid like conflict with them is to make it clear that you want them to inform you so that if they need your help, if they need assistance in any way, you can be there to help them, not to stop them, not to block them, but just to guide them in some way. And then the last type is projectors. Within the projector type, there's 5 subtypes, so it gets even more specific within the
Mm.
projector category. Projectors are here to be the guides. Projectors usually, if you're a projector, you do not have a motor center defined. So you don't necessarily have consistent access to energy, like the motor type of energy that you need to like power you through the day, power you through long projects. Projectors tend to need more rest.
Yeah.
Okay, I
Yep.
misspoke. I said they don't have they don't have a sacral defined.
Yeah.
They don't
Okay.
have the sacral center defined. They do have can have a root defined, they can have their emotional center defined, the ego center defined, and that does provide them some energy, but it's not the same as sacral, like life force energy that can power you through like anything that's like lighting you up and you want to do. You can have like nonstop energy for that. Projectors don't have access to that. Projectors do have an ability to, through their aura, sort of energetically reach out and grab the energy of someone else and guide them when needed. But projectors have to first be recognized for the other person by the other person.
Yeah. Like an,
Mm.
So,
right?
like what?
Like an invitation, like they,
Exactly. Yes. They need an invitation before they can guide and offer advice. This is something that comes up practically in my day to day life with my generator son, my oldest. Like
Yeah.
any advice, any suggestions, any guidance, it will fall on deaf ears if it's not first recognized and invited in by the other person. But if the projector is recognized and invited in, they can help guide that person to the highest and best version of themselves through asking questions, not by telling them what to do or making decisions for them, but by knowing sort of intuitively what questions to ask to get that other person to where they want to be.
Wow.
I have noticed of all my friends that are projectors, I have noticed that they burn out quickly.
Yes.
And I have also noticed that they have a really hard time making decisions, like
Yes.
being in their body and making a decision based on how their body feels.
Yes.
Like
That's
there's
very,
indecisiveness. Yeah.
yeah, that's especially true for the mental projectors like me, and self-projected projectors, where you need to talk through everything to be able to make a decision, but
Mhm.
you're not, like, for self-projected projectors, a lot of them, what that means is their identity center is connected to their throat. That so their decision-making process is to talk through the
Yeah.
decision, not necessarily looking for advice or looking for someone to tell them what to do, but they don't know what it even is until it vocally, like, actually comes out. They need
Yes.
to actually get out of their body for them to know what it is.
That's interesting.
And they can do this through, like, you can just do a voice memo and just talk through to yourself. You don't need another person if you're a self-projected projector. You can just do it on your own and get it out. Mental projectors, it's frustrating if you're a mental projector and you look up your chart. When you look under authority, it'll say no authority. What does that even mean? So, like, I have no guidance in making decisions. Can
You're
you, like,
you're a rebel.
exactly. But a better way to think about it for mental projectors is an environmental authority. Mental projectors are very susceptible to their environments, and they
Mhm.
pick up on the energy of their environment even more so than other people that have that same, like, undefined identity center, excuse me. So mental projectors have a soundboarding process where they need to talk through their decisions with other people, but also being in the right environment. So, as an
Yeah.
example for me, like, I need to get out of my house. I like to go for walks. I like to be out in nature and, like, have a chat with a friend and talk through things, not looking for advice or looking for them to tell me what to do. But what you're doing instead is paying attention to your body and seeing how the words and thoughts feel in your body as they come out.
That's okay. I
I've
can see
had
the
I've had
difference.
experiences where I've thought I definitely want to do something one way, and then I start talking about it with someone, like, I've decided I'm going to do XYZ, and as it's coming out, I feel like everything inside me clenching and tightening up. I'm like, "Oh, actually no, that's not what I want to do. I can feel that that's not correct and I need to change now because I made the decision all in my head before getting it out first."
Wow. Okay.
So those are your types: generator, manifesting generator, projector,
Hmm.
manifester, reflector. And then within that, depending on your type, you have your specific authority. Like we were saying, sacral authority, emotional authority,
Right.
environmental or no authority for mental projectors. It varies depending on what centers you have defined. Your authority is determined by your center definition.
Okay. So knowing what your designation is, and then you said your strategy and
Yes.
and your authority, right?
Yes.
Okay. So what's the strategy?
So your strategy is basically like your strategy for approaching life.
Okay.
It
And it's
is a way to think about it.
3-5 or the 4-6. Is that what the strategy is?
Are those the numbers?
Yeah, the numbers.
The numbers are your profile.
Oh, the
Your
pro.
Oh, that's right.
So
Okay.
that's a little bit different. That's a different that's another aspect of human design we can
Yeah.
talk about, but that's a
Okay.
little bit different. Your
Strategy.
strategy is how you, like, move through life, basically, how you know when you're moving, like, in alignment. As I mentioned, for manifestors, their strategy is to inform. They're not waiting for someone to tell them what to do. They're
Mhm.
not waiting for, like, they could be inspired by anything and they're ready to act. So they let people know, this is what I'm doing, and then they
Yeah.
go on and they act.
So
Um,
wait, what's ours then? What was
For
our strategy?
generators, your strategy essentially is to respond.
Oh,
You're
that's right.
responding to life. And
yep.
it doesn't, some people think of this as that it has to be a specific offer. The generators are just, like, sitting around doing nothing until someone comes in and is like, hey, you want to work with me? Hey, do you want to do this project? But it can truly be anything. You can be reading a book and something in the book triggers something in your mind where your body all of a sudden feels yes. And now you know, like, the next thing you want to do. It
Oh
Hmm.
my
can
God.
be like, my son is super into Legos. He watches, like, a Star Wars show and then he's like, oh my God, I have a great idea for a new
Yeah.
build. And he pauses
It's
the show,
Ezra.
runs to his room and builds this amazing Star Wars ship.
That's
You're
Ezra.
like,
responding to what the universe is presenting to you, what God is
yeah.
presenting to you.
But it could be like misdiagnosed as like ADHD, right? It's like you're
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, especially for manifesting generators, because manifesting generators, they're like generators on speed.
That's what I
They they have multiple irons in the fire at all times. They can respond to multiple things at a time. They don't
Mhm,
manifesting generators, like the idea of you have to put in your 10,000 hours to become an expert. That's not necessarily true for
mhm,
manifesting generators. They're very efficient. They can figure out
mhm.
shortcuts and to get things done and accomplish what it is they're responding to way faster than many other types. And because of that, they can have a lot of things going on at the same time.
Yep.
Yeah.
A
We've
lot of
talked
things at
about
once.
it, like,
Yeah.
even with making our task list for the day or, like, our to-do list, and we were like, "Is this the ADHD where we're like, ah, I don't know where to start and I just shut down?" And I'm like, "No, it's your manifesting generator. Your human design is trying to process what needs to happen first.
Yep.
Like,
Yeah.
what part do I need to get going first and then move it to this because I can have this going while this is going and then rotate da 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 and then da 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 da." Like,
Totally.
the creative in me though, it thrives in what do we wanna create today? What do we wanna do today? And then getting inspired or watch with Ezra, like, go, "Oh, I got an idea for a new video game," or and then he'll
Yeah.
just jump on Scratch and create a new game all of a sudden, like
I love that.
Is he an
So,
MG? Is he a manifesting generator?
Yeah, both my kids are.
Yeah. So I have a generator and I have no, I have a manifester m- no, yeah, manifester and a manifesting generator as children. And yeah. Yep. It's interesting.
yeah. So one thing that can be helpful if you have this like list of to-dos and you kind of want to do everything, break it down into either yes or no or either or questions for the sacral to respond to. So you
Oh.
have a list of 10 things you want to do, break it down to two. Do I want to do this or this? And you'll feel in your body right away which one it is you want to do.
Oh, I'm gonna try that.
For
Okay.
your kids, you can ask them. This comes in especially with food for my
Mm.
oldest. If I just ask him an open question of what do you want to eat?
Uh,
No,
There's
terrible on
nothing.
it.
Total silence, doesn't say a word. So I give him options. Do you want grilled cheese or peanut butter and jelly? And then if there's silence, I know he's not responding to either one of those. So I'll give him two more options.
Your other one's like, "Yeah, I'll take both, please."
My other, the manifester, who's meant to inform, if I ask him, what do you want to eat? He might not say anything. So I rephrase it as, I'm making lunch. When you've decided what you want, come let me know. It's a statement. I'm informing him. And then
Oh
he'll
my
turn around and be
gosh.
like, I want oatmeal with fruits and blueberries. Like
oh,
immediately he'll know and be able to tell me.
this is blowing my mind.
Uh-huh, uh-huh.
Manifestors can do well with open questions, but because their strategy is to inform, they do better when they're also informed. Just
Yeah.
tell them when we're leaving, hey, we're leaving for school in 10 minutes. You have to be ready to go by then. When you've decided what you want to wear, let me know.
I so my younger son is a manifesting generator and he will labor over decisions because not sure which he wants to choose. I attribute that to the Virgo moon and the Virgo rising in his chart,
Hmm.
knowing that he needs to have it broken down to a choice between one or another.
Yes.
Holy crap, this is going to revolutionize things in
It
my
needs to be an either or a yes or no kind of thing. Do you want pizza tonight? Yes or no? Okay.
yeah.
No. Let's move on to the next one. Do you want nachos? Yes. Great. Okay.
If
Let's
my,
go from there.
my older son, I just tell him this is what we're doing, and he'll be like, "Cool,
Yeah.
Is he the manifester?
yeah,
Yeah. There you go. Yeah.
Yeah, Ezra, if I'm like he's like, "I want a snack." And then I'll be like, "Okay, well, what do you have in mind?" "I don't know." And then he'll decide on nothing. And
Yeah.
mhm,
then that's when I have to do the, "Okay, well, do you want something hot or cold? Do you want something, sweet or savory? Like, what kind
Yeah.
of snack? Or do you want real food?" And that
Yeah.
always goes so much so much
Totally. Henry,
easier.
my Henry will tell me he's my oldest. He's the generator. He's a pure generator. He'll say, I want food. I'm hungry. Okay, what do you want to eat? I don't know. And then he'll just walk out. Okay. So let's break it down. We'll go through everything we have. Do you want fruit? Yes or no? Okay. Do you want apples or strawberries? Do you want frozen fruit or fresh fruit? And we kind of go from there and figure it out.
And
But yeah.
then I know we talk about like having the cold thirst or this or that,
Yes.
like one of the, like the other minor things that's probably not a big deal, but to me it makes sense when I'm like watching people eat and drink and they'll post their stories of their food for the day, and then I'll see people that also have like something hot, something cold, they'll have their smoothie, their coffee, their water, and I'm like, oh, I wonder what their, their humans.
Yeah. Yeah. So what you're talking about is the primary health system, the PHS. That information is determined by the 4 arrows that you see at the top of your chart.
Yeah.
Yeah, you'll see 4 arrows either facing like left or right. That is your primary health system. That's the aspect of human design that focuses on the way the body functions and the body's unique needs to function
Mm.
optimally. So it breaks down and tells you it's labeled as determination. Some people also call it digestion, which is basically the ideal way for your body to take in food as well as information.
Oh,
Uh, there's also, it can indicate your ideal environment. And then it also tells you how um, like your awareness and how your mind processes information and best takes in information and kind of operates. So that all comes from those 4 arrows up at the top. I think those are fascinating to look into
Mhm.
specifically for children
yeah.
because food, in my opinion, is the greatest source of our conditioning as kids. Being told like what to eat, what not to eat, when to eat, how much of it to eat,
How fast, how
all
slow.
of that. We're fully conditioned, like
Mhm.
with the exception of nursing infants that are allowed to feed on demand. Once you start eating food, you're at someone else's, you're
Yeah.
eating
Mhm.
what your parents give you at the time that they give it to you. Like you're fully at someone else's control.
Mm.
For me, looking into the PHS, the primary health system for children, and understanding like they know intuitively how their body best functions and what their body needs to be functioning optimally. We,
Yeah.
the adults, are the ones that condition that out of them. And being able to look at that and see, like, my
Oh,
oldest, for example, Mio, you mentioned cold thirst. My oldest is cold thirst. There are times for dinner when he just wants frozen fruit or he just wants a smoothie. He doesn't want to eat the pasta that I made, or he doesn't, he wants a yogurt and an apple, and that's it. And it would be so easy as his parent to say, no, this is the dinner that we made for whatever culturally, we're all having family dinner together. So we're eating the same thing. Nutritionally, you can't just eat fruit. You need protein and you need these other things. Like it's so easy to find reasons to tell them, no, you can't do the thing your body is telling you you need to do. But if you know their design, you know what the ideal food conditions or environmental conditions for them to eat in are, and you see that what they're asking for you is fully in alignment with that, it's really hard to say no or to talk them out of it because
Mhm.
they're telling
Yeah.
you what their body needs. You don't know what their body needs. They do. They're the ones in their body.
right.
My youngest, the manifester, his determination is alternating appetite. So those
Mm.
types have a very primitive digestive system, I would say, like as simple as possible for foods for them, minimal ingredients, and they tend to want to eat as much of one thing as they want before they move on to the next thing.
Oh,
He'll ask for one thing at a time. Like when I ask about dinner, I'll tell him I'm making dinner. What do you want? He'll say, I just want blueberries. There are
Mhm.
many times when my conditioning comes out and I'll say, you can't just have blueberries for dinner. What else do you want? And he's like, just blueberries, just blueberries, just blueberries. After I give him the blueberries and he's eaten them, then he'll come back and say, I want a peanut butter sandwich now. Then he knows what the next thing is, but he has to get through the first one first before he can alternate to what the next one is.
Is
There's
that what mine is? The same as his, or
Let me
mine's
look at yours.
consecutive? Is consecutive the same, or I can't remember.
Yours is consecutive. So it's in the same appetite group, but
Okay.
for consecutive appetite, they are also highly, highly, highly susceptible to conditioning because I'm curious, Mio, if you ever feel like you find a particular food or a particular meal that you like and you want to eat that same thing for lunch every day for
Oh yeah.
multiple days in a row.
Like I can do leftovers for a disgusting amount of meals in a row. Like my sister will joke and be like, "What's for dinner for breakfast?" Like, because and
Yeah,
so I'll send her pictures of like my chicken for breakfast or whatever.
that's
yeah.
exactly what the consecutive appetite
Yeah.
is. You have the appetite for the same thing and you have to feed that until your body's like, okay, I'm done with this. Let's move on to the next thing.
That's wild. I have an app called Neutrino that I use for human design stuff.
Okay.
I was turned on by a client. She turned me on to. It is very, very detailed. So much information where I'm just like scratching the surface as I'm learning how to use it. But
Yeah.
what other resources stuff would you like if someone wants to start to learn about human design? but doesn't necessarily want to like be overwhelmed by the sheer amount of information. Cause there's I've even studying it, and every time I go to look at like the resources, I'm like, holy shit, there's so much to look through. So I'm starting with this Neutrino app that has a lot of information built in. What would you like, what would you suggest as like the ways to start learning about your human design?
So first thing you should do is get your body chart, get your body graph.
So
you know what to start with.
mybodygraph.com is one I've used before.
Yes, that's the one. I like that one because some of them will give you the body graph, but they don't show you the arrows at the top. They don't show you the primary health system.
Yeah.
Mybodygraph.com will give you the full thing, including the arrows across the top.
And then I noticed some of them like will oversimplify things also.
Yes.
Or, not enough. Yeah, just not enough detail or.
Yeah. So with human design, there's so much like there's like a human design school that people will go to school for years and pay to become analysts to learn this in like incredibly deep and detailed. You don't have to do that to get benefits from it in your everyday life. Like I personally believe you don't have to pay anyone to do a chart reading. The information you need to immediately have benefits and see like practical applications for this is all available for free or through books. So once you go to mybodygraph.com and have your chart, one book I would recommend is called Understanding Human Design by Karen Curry Parker. That book, you may have it. I got that book at my library when I first got into human design. It was one of the first things I read, and they had it at my local library. I just went and looked. It was available. Got it. If your library doesn't have a copy, if they have like a sharing thing, they may be able to get it from another library that does.
Looks amazing.
It's a great book that breaks down like everything about human design in a very like tangible, easy to process way that if you don't read anything else, that gives you enough to get started on like what the different centers are and what the energy of those areas are.
And it's easy enough to page through to go, okay, where's my center? Where's this?
Yeah.
What's this? And then
You don't have to read
my
the whole
book is
thing from
marked
cover
up.
to
Mine
Yeah,
is covered in highlights and sticky notes. So yeah.
That's
Another
cool.
one.
Go ahead.
Oh, sorry. Another one that I like, I actually have here. So that one I got from the library. I don't have that one. This one I own, called Understanding the Centers in Human Design.
Okay.
This one was written by a marriage and family therapist who studied human design and uses human design as part of her therapy practice. So she breaks it down. It's like almost doing self-therapy. You can take your time working through each of your defined and undefined centers. She has journaling prompts, meditation prompts to help you work through them. And you can also use it, like I use it for myself. And then I also go through and read about like my kids or my husband, like to see how their energies are affecting me and things like that.
What's
So
the author's name?
Her name is Robin Winn, ROBINWINN. This is what it looks like.
Yeah, cool.
And then there's
people ask.
There's all kinds of other materials. Like if there are some more dogmatic approaches. Some analysts believe you should only ever read the material that was written specifically by the system's creator and not any of this other stuff. Personally, I think that's a very closed-minded kind of view, because the best way we learn about this, the whole purpose of human design, is to experiment. It's all theory. None of this has been proven in a way that I can take documents into court and prove to a judge this is absolutely fact, human design. It's all theory. The whole purpose of theory is to be a scientist and experiment, test it out. And you learn through your experience and through observing experiences of others. So if you only stick to the material that the creator of the system came up with, you're only getting his experience. You're only getting it through his lens. Other people who've like studied it, some have studied with him and then written their own thing, like Karen Curry Parker, the lens through which it's filtered through for me is a little easier to grasp and process, especially for someone just getting into it and just learning it.
Totally. Yeah.
And it's generally like their books are more accessible. A lot of the original material is behind a paywall online, but their books, you can go to a bookstore and get it. You can get them from the library and read Understanding the Centers. And, it can help you without spending a dime,
I'll add it to my list of of 10 books on my bedside because that's how the manifesting generator rolls, just picking
Yeah.
up a book
Constant.
whenever they feel like it.
Yes,
Yeah.
books.
I also wanted to mention there's two Instagram accounts that I actually really like. One of them is Jess Fields. Her
Yeah.
handle on Instagram is Jess Fields. She is really great. So for me, the gates and the channels haven't really piqued my interest quite as much as things like the primary health system, because to me the energy of the gates, I like a practical approach to human design. And the primary health system is very practical. I see right away how I can implement like ideal environment, ideal digestion. The gates and the channels, they're interesting, they're fascinating to learn about, because when you read about the gates that you have, you're like, oh, I understand why I do this thing. I understand why I feel like I constantly have to share my opinions on everything. I have the gate of opinions. Duh, it makes sense. But that energy is going to be there and play out no matter what you do. There's not really like your
Oh,
energy is going to come out no matter what. You can't.
so, yes, there's not anything you do to shift it. You just,
Exactly. For me, that's a lot of like mind. It's fun to read about, but I don't really know how to practically apply it. What I love about Jess Fields is she breaks down a lot of like gates and channels. She looks at it through the transit perspective and she gives it to you in a practical way that's like, this is what this energy means. And if you want to hone it and maximize that energy, these are how you can ways to apply it like in your life. So I appreciate a lot that she does that, because it's a completely different perspective or approach from what I have in it. And then the other is Amy Ruth, and her Instagram handle is Amy Ruth, RUTH HD. She approaches parenting from human design, and all of her content is centered on parenting and
Okay.
kids play. And she actually, I think it was, she found human design first, and then she went back to graduate school as a child to become a child therapist with human design as the focus. Like she wrote her thesis in school from a human design perspective.
that's
So
cool.
everything that she shares on Instagram, it's like she's a trained therapist, a trained children's therapist, but she approaches it through the lens of human design and shows you like when kids play in this way, it's these energies like playing out, and this is what they're learning and this is what they're gaining
Ah,
from it. It's really interesting. So
okay.
those
I
are
gotta add
two
that
like,
one.
yeah, two good ones to check out. And
I,
she's Australian, so I like her accent too.
oh yeah, I listen to the woman who, the client of mine who turned me on to the Neutrino app. She works at, she works at the Veterans Hospital that's near here, and she works as like a life coach counselor for veterans, and she uses human design to help them understand
Oh, wow.
are the way that they are, what they need to be more comfortable as they're working through a lot of their trauma.
Yeah, I
Uh,
love that. That's such a great way to use it.
Yeah, she finds it very, very helpful, and they love it too. She's been able to like convince a number of them to start integrating wellness techniques like meditation and mindfulness, and but all based on like how receptive they would be, you know, as determined by the human design.
Yeah, I love that. That's such
Yeah.
a beautiful way to like help them in healing too.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. Yep. It's
It's such a great like practical use of it. It can be really easy to get into the weeds of human design and the mind candy side and just think and not see how it actually applies in your everyday life. And I love that she's using it as a tool to like actually have like real hands-on
yeah,
change
work
within their lives.
solutions. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's awesome. Oh, goodness. Okay. So you've given us some resources, which is so fantastic because I know, like, I just know a lot of my clients in my healing practice listen to our podcast, and I've had so many of them ask about human design. And I'm like, I only know what my chart looks like, and I
Right.
can't tell you shit about.
I can tell you what you are, but like
Yeah.
basic. Like,
Yeah.
So
yeah.
this is helpful, and it's also inspiring, of course, the manifesting generator and me wants to go grab some books and start reading them, right? But it's always been something I've been interested in because I know it holds a lot of like keys to why I am the way that I am. I never doubt that for 1 second, but at the time that it takes to like discover that,
Yeah.
it's a little overwhelming when we've got like a million irons in the fire. Um, what else would you suggest to somebody who is just really wanting to start discovering themselves through human design?
Um, let's see.
You said to focus on the centers, right?
Focus on the centers. Yeah.
And
The one note I would say about the PHS, the primary health system, it changes, like it fluctuates a lot throughout the day what your configuration is. So you need to have your precise birth time to
oh,
really like get it specific. That can be hard for some, like
mhm,
most of us have our birth time, but not everyone has that. And especially for like older, like I can't figure out my mom's because I don't have her birth time. She doesn't have it. And
mhm.
for our kids, we definitely can. And if you know your time and can find your PHS and figure out your digestion, your environment, I would say that's another great place to start, especially to help with deconditioning. Like when you see, one thing, for example, I mentioned my son was cold thirst. Another aspect of that type for cold thirst, and there's also hot thirst. So depending on which way the arrow faces, it'll determine if you're cold thirst, hot thirst, consecutive appetite, alternating appetite, passive, or focused.
Mhm.
Those specific types, like for my son, he constantly would get headaches and foot cramps, and we couldn't figure out, like, why is this happening? We figured out he's susceptible to dehydration, and the thirst types are particularly susceptible to dehydration. So we really have to make sure he always has a full water bottle with him. He always like stays hydrated and keeps drinking fluids, because we know, like, if he goes one day without it, he's going to wake up with a headache the next day.
Aw.
I'm also cold thirst. And learning that about him, I was like, holy shit, this might be a key to my migraines too. And sure enough, once I got on top of it with water and trying to stay consistent with my water and electrolyte balance and really pay attention to hydration, it had a huge effect on migraines. I went from getting them 3 or 4 times a week to like 2 or 3 times a month.
Wow.
Oh my
So if
gosh.
you have your birth time and you have those specifics and you can look up your own PHS as well, there's a lot within there. Like it's not just how you eat, like it can have a big effect on your body when you finally let your body eat the way it wants to eat and take in information the way it wants to and be in the environment that it wants to be in. Those can be really significant as
Yeah,
well. So
absolutely.
centers, but also if you have your time and you can look up your PHS, I feel this is important to emphasize, which is why I keep talking about it, because there are a lot of practitioners, human design analysts that won't even touch PHS. And they,
Mm.
they say, like, you have to learn centers first. That's a deeper layer. You can't really go there. To me, like, no. If you can figure it out, that's one of the first ways to immediately start addressing conditioning. And it's like, it's an easy gateway into self acceptance to see, like,
Mhm.
I have consecutive appetite. It's okay if I want to eat the same tuna sandwich for breakfast, lunch, and dinner every day for a week. That's okay. That's what I'm supposed to do. Like you can immediately accept yourself and accept that part of you.
I'm totally gonna look at mine. I haven't even thought to look at my appetite or the PHS yet.
Yeah, check it out and check out. I was just looking at Meo's environment too before we started, just for fun. Her
Kitchen, I
environment is
think.
kitchens dry. Kitchens are
Kitchen.
like, so when you think of a kitchen, it's like a place of alchemy, of coming together. Different
Mhm.
ingredients, different people come together and change one or two things to make it greater than what it is. Cities are a great example of a kitchen's environment where you have restaurants,
Ah.
housing, restaurants, businesses, arts, different people, different languages, different races, and you specifically being dry, desert or
Oh,
high
that's so
mountain
funny.
environment are more ideal for those types. So knowing that you're in Vegas, a city desert, that is
That is
your
so funny.
ideal environment. It to me, like those little bits to like the observer side to see that and be like,
Yeah.
oh, no wonder you're drawn to
Like,
being there.
look at
That's
how this
actually how you're
manifests.
supposed to
Yeah.
be. Like no one's forcing you into that box. It works for you and it's like supported by your chart.
That's
How
so,
funny.
Yeah.
oh my God, I'm gonna totally dive in. I'm gonna totally dive into mine.
I know, I think I've said it before, like Ezra has it was something about like the quiet digestion or something, I can't remember the exact term,
Calm.
calm digestion.
Yeah.
And I was like, dude, he makes everybody like be quiet when he has to like go to the bathroom.
Yeah. So
He's
within
like,
within the
everybody shut up. I have to poop.
the digestion part can tell
But
there's
also
three that
eating.
kind of specifically address the conditions of the food and then three that address the conditions of the environment in which you're consuming that food or information. So for him being calm, that totally makes sense, like being in a quiet space, a calm environment when he's eating, when he's studying, all of that,
Yeah.
that's fully supported by him being calm determination.
Yeah,
That's
so
So
that's when I'm
curious.
like, all right, TV off, things off, da da da,
Yeah.
quiet,
Quiet.
focus.
Yeah. Some
well, that,
and there's
The
also
more
like
you
a low
know.
sound one. Some people like to wear low sound. They wear noise canceling headphones while they're eating to cancel out all the sound and just be focused and
like
allowing their
you're
body.
doing.
Yeah.
Your
And that's like all you hear. Yeah. But
Just
yeah,
sounds
there's
like a
a
podcast of
lot of
chewing.
information in there.
So cool.
Yeah, I'm super excited to dig into my chart a little bit more now because I know that, like I said, there's just so much that you can peel back the layers, and perhaps we'll just have more discussion about more specific topics with human design if you're open to that. Like,
Yeah, definitely.
Or
Yeah,
even like, yeah, breaking down some charts or something. Like that's, so
sure.
no, like
Like
I'm always
we haven't
fascinated.
even talked about like the profile lines or like any of that stuff. Yeah.
because
Yeah, so
that,
we'll have a part two for sure. We will
yeah,
definitely have a part two because I love this and I think it's easy and simple enough. So if somebody doesn't want to get into like, because there's a lot of people who are tapping into learning about themselves, their spirituality, their soul
Mhm.
journey, and not everyone's going to resonate with astrology or tarot readings or, mediumship freaks some people out. And so it's
Yeah.
like, okay, this is a very easy way to be like, how the hell does all this say this just based off my birthday?
yep.
Yeah, totally. I know.
Mm.
That was part of my husband's skepticism. He was like, "You're gonna tell me all this based off my birth date and time? Like, really?"
Yes,
I'm like,
sir.
and I told him that you use Enneagram in your business. You have your employees do an Enneagram test, and that's a self-assessment. Like you're deciding what you want to answer. This human design is very similar, except you're not
You can't
deciding.
game the yeah,
You
you can't
can't
game
let
the
your mind
system.
get in control and game the system. It is what it is. And a lot of like when I pulled up a chart for one other person in the organization just to show him. A lot of the things were aligned with what their Enneagram was as well. Like it's
Oh, well, of
kind
course.
of
Yeah.
it's spot on, but you're not the benefit of it being based on your birth time like astrology is you can't get in the way and change the results to be what you want them to be. They are what they are.
You have to accept yourself for
Yeah,
who you are instead of creating
exactly.
I think I think HR
Yeah.
HR should have a human design department.
Totally. I think schools should use it. Can you imagine like a teacher knowing all the human design of their students and being able to like put them in teams that work well together,
Uh-huh.
tailor their like specific lesson plans to how the kids learn, like making sure they have like the correct environment because your determination, for example, it's not just about how you process food, it's also information. If you have
Yeah.
kids in your class that are low sound and everything at lunch is loud and active, they're going to have a hard time learning. Maybe you like make accommodations to help them have that quieter environment. Like there's so many practical ways human design can be used. Like it's really exciting to me to see so many people getting into it. And I really want people to not look at the chart and get overwhelmed or think, oh my gosh, this is too much, or I could never learn it. You can break it down into bite-sized pieces. You can get like
Yeah.
even the surface level chart of your reading is going to give you so much information to work with. Like it is something you can use practically.
And then your human design's gonna draw you to what area to study next.
Exactly. Yes. Follow your inner authority, whatever it is that's like pinging a yes in you to study next, or a person to study with, or to learn from, or books to read. You're, if this is a system that is coming into your life and has found its way into your life, your authority will guide you to the right way to use it for you.
I- That's like just, yep, use your authority.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Stephanie, thank you so much for being here today and just like answering all of our questions because
You're
this
welcome.
I
Yeah.
love picking your brain about this stuff. It's super fascinating and very, very grateful that you took time out of your super busy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you for inviting me. I love talking about it, and I don't have enough people in my life that will let me just sit and talk about it for an hour.
Well, and then I
So
knew you were a projector, so I knew I had to invite
Yeah.
you. I
Yeah.
knew you wouldn't just be like, "Hey, let's record an episode on
I
this."
know. I would never be like, let's do it. I wait.
we would
The invitation will come.
we'd love to invite you for more conversations because I'm sure that there are definitely interesting ways that we can have discussions about the applicability of human design or just like how just there's so many combinations of things we could talk.
Yeah. Yeah, totally. We can do chart readings. We can look at your kids' charts. We can look at celebrity charts and talk about how we see that play out in the public eye.
Yeah,
That'd be fun.
yeah, that
That'd
could
be,
be
Yeah.
fun. So I'll work on coordinating our next powwow. And then we'll go from there. So thank you so
Sounds good.
much. I
Thank
hope
you.
your Valentine's party goes well today. So
Yeah, happy Valentine's Day to you too.
You too. Valentine's Day.
thank you, everybody. We love you.
We love
Thank
you.
you.
We will catch you very soon.
Okay, bye.